Much love, and I am Wayne Johnson with Doc and Queen Ministries, also the author of the book entitled Every Child Deserves a Father, can be found on Amazon. Also just want to share with you what standards may go through once that reconciliation begins, and just some of the things that I've learned from it. So let us go into Genesis chapter 22, and I believe I'm going to do verses 1 through 11. I also have some shorts on this subject at the moment, not so much with and tied to the standards of reconciliation, but as I was studying this, I saw and draw the connection of Genesis 22 verses 1 through 11, I believe. So let me start and read it for you. And it begins with, as these things God decided to test Abraham's faith. God said to Abraham, and Abraham, he said, yes. Then God said, take your son to the land of Moriah and kill your son there as a sacrifice for me. This must be Isaac, your only son, the one you love. Use him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains there. I will tell you which mountain. In the morning, Abraham got up, saddled his donkey. He took Isaac and 2 servants with him. He cut the wood for the sacrifice. Then they went to the place where God told them to go. After they traveled 3 days, Abraham looked up, and in the distance he saw the place where they were going. Then he said to his servants, stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go to that place and worship. Then we will come back to you later. Abraham took the wood for the sacrifice and put it on his son's shoulder. Abraham took the special knife and fire. Then both he and his son went together to the place for worship. Isaac said to his father Abraham, Father. Abraham answered, yes, son. Isaac said, I see the wood and the fire, but where's the lamb we will burn as a sacrifice? Abraham answered, God himself is providing the lamb for the sacrifice, my son. So both Abraham and his son went together to that place. When they came to the place where God told them to go, Abraham built an altar. He carefully laid the wood on the altar. Then he tied up his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached for his knife to kill his son. But, verse 11, but the angel of the Lord stopped him. The angel called from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. Abraham answered, yes. The angel said, don't kill your son or hurt him in any way. Now I can see that you do respect and obey God. I see that you are ready to kill your son, your only son, for me. Now what I learned from restudying this in Genesis and how it applies to standards, especially during the reconciliation period for your spouse, God is seeing if Abraham is faithful to him. And as you know, in this journey of standing for your spouse, you're going to have patience and faith. No doubts about it. So God tests Abraham. And just like we go through this same test as we're standing, even when your spouse gets closer to reconciliation or is going through reconciliation, because it is not as fast as one would think who has been standing. We have something in our mind, and for some reason, all of us, we always have an answer or what we think is going to happen. I assure you, the restoration period will not happen the way you think it will happen. It's still going to take everything that got you to this point, which is faith and patience and perseverance. So in this, God wants Abraham to take his son to see if Abraham is more committed to God, or is he more committed to his son or himself? So as Abraham prepared, he got up in the morning, took his son, and he took 2 servants. It's something about when God tells us about 2 or more witnesses. God always wants to have at least 2 people to vouch for whatever is happening. So I believe that is the why 2 servants are there, and we hear that I believe when we talk about going to meet with God in worship and prayer, and we always want 2 witnesses. So then in the morning they went and they went towards the mountain, and the son has no idea what's going on, but he knows that his dad is going to sacrifice. He appears a lamb, but we know that it is actually him. But God is just seeing how far Abraham will take this. And it's the same thing with us when our spouse leaves and return for that matter. He just wants to see, are we more committed to him even more than our spouse, because he knows how close our spouse and what our spouse means to us, just like Abraham's son meant to him. So God is seeing, where are you at with your relationship with him? Now, this restoration, this reconciliation is really just more about you and your relationship with God than you even getting back with your spouse. Because God wants you to lean and depend on him. And at some point during your marriage, you didn't do that. Even if you didn't even recognize you didn't do that, this clearly shows you didn't. And God wants you to trust, believe, and be with him as you go through this process. So as Abraham was about to sacrifice his son, because the son said, well, where's the lamb? And Abraham had got to the point of tying him up, but the angel told him to stop. And he saw that God, that Abraham respected God. And that's what God wants from us. He wants to make sure that we respect him. He wants us to go the distance with him and know that he is our true provider. This lesson taught me that God wants us to constantly have faith and trust in him. And going to this point, because many of us, we don't want to let our spouse go. We want to get in the way. We want to fix it. But this is something that you can't fix. God wants you to let go and let God. And he wants you to go the whole distance. And many of us don't really want to let go because we cherish and love our spouse. But we need to love and cherish God more. And God wants the best for us anyway. So we need to let God be first. And we need to let God know he is first. And we need to show God that he is first. I hope that this lesson has helped. I hope that this lesson makes sense. I continue to pray for those who are standing for their marriage. Restoration and reconciliation is still not easy. There's a point where you have to still have patience and faith in God and let God help you through the process, because I assure you, they won't come back and do things like you thought they would do. You have a thought in your mind how this is going to look, but it doesn't actually look like that. There's still a lot of work to be done, and patience and faith is the key. Take care, God bless, and as always, much love to you.